G'day, g'day, wherever you may be in this wonderful, beautiful multiverse of ours. This is Mastering Music, Mastering Life. I'm your host, Tony Jack the Bear Mance, here at a very early hour of the morning in Deluxe Mastering, Melbourne, Australia. And the gentleman I'm about to speak to is a fellow whose work I've followed for many, many years. I've listened to so many of his records. I'm sure that I doubt there's anyone who will be watching or listening that does not have this gentleman's name on the credits of many, many records in their collection. He's got over 350 million sales behind his name. Guys like Guns N' Roses, George Michael, Aretha Franklin, Rolling Stones, David Bowie, just at the very, very tip of the mountain of the great artists that he's worked with. He's still active in the music scene. He's still passionate about what he does. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce to you Mr. Steve Thompson. Welcome, my friend.
Good day, and thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone that's listening.
Not a problem at all. Steve, so right now you're just showing me your man cave before with all the gold records and all your sports memorabilia and whatnot. Where are you living these days?
I keep my my house undisclosed, but I'm the East Coast of the United States.
Mm-hmm. You're originally from New York, though. What part of the city were you from?
Well, I have a very interesting background in New York. I was born in Brooklyn, raised a little bit in Queens, Long Island, lived in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So basically all parts of New York. I spent a lot of my life in LA, working. And what's kind of interesting in my life, you become a chameleon to the world because I've worked in so many different countries and cultures. And the one thing I've always loved about traveling is visiting different cultures, respecting them and adhering to their rules and bylaws, and I think that's really important that you respect all cultures. And every time I go to a different country, I have to go see how the real people live, not in 5-star hotels and this and that. I want to see how the real people live. I remember I used to go to Jamaica a lot, and I go to see Sunsplash, which is a reggae festival, because I did work with reggae artists from Bob Marley, Ziggy Marley, Steel Pulse, and I wanted to go see how the real people live. And you know what I found absolutely amazing and respectful? People living in shacks, but they seem to be the happiest people in the world, and that gave me a lifelong lesson. It's not what you own. It's the content of your character and being happy in the surroundings you're in. I know that might sound cliche to most people, but I've learned that and I respect that.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think you get to appreciate things like your health, your friendships, connection to other people. And these are the things that have no price tag, respect of your peers. These are things that money cannot really buy. So I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I guess maybe with the gaining of wisdom and with aging, I wouldn't expect someone in their 20s to fully appreciate that, but maybe that's just something that comes along with age.
Well, it's really interesting. My wife, who I've been with forever, absolutely adore her. We have different schedules. Obviously, I'm a night bird. She goes to bed early because she actually works and helps older people in the morning. So she wakes up at 3:00 in the morning, and we do prayers at 3:00 in the morning almost every day.
Wow.
And I have so much respect for what she does. I mean, she doesn't have to work. She does that because she wants to help. And I'm the same way. If I can help somebody, I'm all for it. It's like when I'm in the studio, I have people come, hey, can I come in and check it out? And I said, sure. I have nothing to hide. And I hear a lot of stories where people are afraid to let people in. And I'm like, hey, come on in. If I could teach you something, great, because I'll be honest with you, what I learned, I didn't go to school for it. It was on the job training.
Yeah.
And
how did you get your start, Steve? How did it all begin for you? How did your career begin?
Oh, it's a long story. I mean, I grew up in New York. When I got out of high school, my ambition was to be an architect. And that kind of fell by the wayside. So I started working in record stores. and I developed a great record collection. And I started going to nightclubs. And in the early 70s, there was very rare that there were DJs in nightclubs, the only clubs that were gay clubs. And I happened to go to a couple of gay clubs and said, wow, this is outstanding. So I used to go to this club in Long Island, and they would have bands like Twisted Sister and everything like that. And I suggested the club owner, why don't you put a DJ in there? Because after the band goes down, the energy of the club gets lost. So to make a long story short, he puts a whole DJ system in there, calls me a couple of months later, says, Steve, I put a DJ system in there. Would you like to be a DJ? Now, I'll be honest with you, I had no idea, no clue how to be a DJ. But the one good thing I had is that I had a good record collection. And so I started to become a DJ at nights. And to make another long story short, in the mid-'70s, I got opportunities to work on dance music as a producer, a remixer, and that's how everything started. So I started with dance music, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah. One of the things I really admire about you, and I wish there was more of, is I've always admired you're one of those guys that have always been quite a pioneer in wanting to bring rock element into dance music, which I feel there's not enough of. I mean, I'm an old rock dog, but I was, but I also did mobile DJing as a kid. That's how I made my money and got my ticket to go to New York and bang on studios. And I've always loved anyone that could create that hybrid where you got, a dance track that'll make you move, but still with rock sensibility. And you're one of those guys that's been a master of doing that. So I wish there was more of it, man, because I think there's room. I think the two work very well together. If you're creative enough, you can make it work.
I totally agree. I've always been a chameleon. I mean, my roots were from James Brown to Led Zeppelin, to Black Sabbath to Andrea Bocelli. And what's interesting that when I worked on dance music, I learned the power of arrangements. Okay. I remember doing a song, Madonna, Open Your Heart. It was a 3-minute and 20-second song. Warner Brothers came up to me and said they had a True Blue album. They said, well, we're throwing this single out. If this single doesn't hit, we're going on to the next record. So they gave me the opportunity to work on it. I wound up bringing musicians in. Again, you have to understand the technology at the time. We didn't have Pro Tools.
That's right, yeah.
So basically, I wanted to create a more of a dance groove, and I had to deal with a track that was almost like a live track. So we had no grid at the time. So it was painstakingly a lot, because I kept a lot of the original production, but it was painstakingly a lot of time to put this track together, bring keyboards in, new grooves, this and that. And I wound up making this song 10 minutes and 25 seconds long. The reason why I did that is I wanted to make the ultimate bathroom record for a DJ in a club where they could put the record on, not get bored, go do their thing, and come back in time.
Yeah,
it actually works.
I think there was also,
but the thing about dance records, people have to realize rock came from R&B. We know the roots of R&B and rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always liked groove. And even in the 80s, when most producers were using a 2/4 groove, I hated that because to me it was stiff and predictable. I'd rather do a swing groove. So anytime I can get away with that, I always wanted to put a groove to rock music because, some of the greatest rock, Aerosmith was good that way.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to groove to great tracks.
Absolutely.
But, what I really appreciate the way I was brought up is I worked on every different type of music possible, from hip hop, rock, electronica, EDM, you name it, metal. But being able to incorporate elements from different genres and make something different, unique, but at the same time acceptable was my goal.
Yeah. What was your biggest break in? Which record or which band do you think was the one that really sort of catapulted you into the limelight?
Well, everybody would say Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, but I thought it was earlier than that because in the late 70s, I was working on a lot of dance music. And then the Death of Disco era happened. I wound up becoming a club DJ again. And then in the early 80s, I got a call from Polygram to start doing some R&B music from Cameo, Barcade, Stephanie Mills. You know, you get the idea.
Yeah.
I started working on that. Then the so-called new wave thing came out, which new wave was they called alternative back in the day.
Yeah.
And I got calls to do artists like Talk, Psychedelic Furs, Icicle Works, Missing Persons, David Bowie.
Yeah.
Which I have to say one thing about David.
Go on.
David is the reason why I got in the music industry. I mean, I absolutely loved him as an artist, and I'm old enough to experience a lot of the most major artists, and not here today, see them live.
Well, he was the ultimate chameleon, and he also was he was one of those guys before. You know, Madonna was always good at reinventing herself, but I think Bowie led the way when it came to reinvention and making himself relevant and moving through the times. He was up there, wasn't he? He was just an absolute genius.
Well, I have to spend a couple of minutes on David because
Please.
The first experience I had with David, I was working at Sam Goody's music store,
mm-hmm.
and in New York, that was back in the day. You could get your records there. You can buy your guitars there, your audio equipment. You can get everything there. And I remember the guy in the guitar department coming up to me. He says, "Steve," he hands me the Ziggy Stardust record. He says, "You know what? It might take you 50 times to listen to this, but once you get it, you're going to get it." And I said, "Yeah, right." And I fell in love with it. And I had the opportunity to see David playing at Radio City Music Hall in the early 70s, the Ziggy Stardust show.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And again, I was at the original Woodstock. I saw the Allman Brothers live. I saw every band you could imagine live. Jimi Hendrix. When I went to this show, I was blown away because it opened up. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
Clockwork Orange was a groundbreaking movie for me. I'm not really into violent movies, but I thought it was done masterfully. And Wayne Carlos is now Jane Carlos did, I think, the soundtrack of that record. And anyway, on the Ziggy Stardust show at Radio City, you saw the organist. Excuse me, I have somewhat of a cold.
Oh, good.
Not COVID. And they would play music from Clockwork Orange, the theme song. And that's how the show opened. Then I see David Bowie coming down on like a global ball. And that blew me away. And I saw this show. And I don't think I blinked once. It was so amazing. Mick Ronson, Woody Woomsey on drums, Trevor Bolder on bass. I mean, it just blew me away. And I was so enamored with David. I wanted to go see every show. Wound up wearing all the glitter, the satin suits, the high heel platforms. I was not gay, but I would have sucked his dick back in the day. That's how much I love David. And I went to, and you know what I loved about David?
Yeah.
No matter how successful he was on a record, he changed it up. And that to me was brilliant. And, you know, if you go back to when he started to go R&B, good friends of mine, Carlos Alomar, Luther Vandross, and Robin Clark. They did Young Americans, put this whole group together.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that is really cool. So to make, long story short, I got to work with David in the early to mid 80s. And again, I wish I was old enough to work on the really amazing, like Heroes is probably one of my favorite songs from David.
It's a good one.
I got to work with Carlos Alomar. And Carlos is a friggin' genius. He was David Bowie's musical director from that time to whenever.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to work with Carlos, and I think I worked on Love and the Alien. I worked on, because I worked with the Stones before, I worked on the Mick Jagger, David Bowie song for Live Aid.
Dancing in the Streets. Dancing in the Streets.
Yeah, Dancing in the Streets. And I wound up working on a lot of David stuff. And I developed a close bond with Carlos, and we worked on a lot of projects together. And like I said, for an artist to be able to change up his ways as he did, be totally different. I mean, I have so much respect for that because you don't see that anymore. To me, probably one of my favorite pop stars right now is Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
I mean, he's actually taken Michael, he's taken Prince, he's taken James Brown. He's got a great voice, and I just think he's got a great vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your take on modern day music these days, Steve? You still actively seek new music and get online and look for new artists and things that are different?
Oh, absolutely. There's a backlash that music sucks today. And I have a philosophy with that. I totally disagree. I said, first of all, understand every generation has their own form of music. Okay. Everybody said Carly B is a slut, this and that. When I'm as a kid, I like to listen to music that pisses my parents off. Okay. So lesson achieved. There's a lot of great, I love the band The Struts. I mean, I should do a record with them because they by far, I would make the best record they'd ever make in their life. I love that band. And, I think there's a lot of great music out there. You just have to search for it.
I agree.
The Grammys were a disappointment.
What did you, what went, yeah, tell me about that.
Huh?
Tell me about that. Yeah, tell me why.
I'm sorry, what?
No, I said I'm interested to hear why
Can
you
you
thought
hear me?
that. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm
Tony?
interested. Yes. Yep, I'm here.
Tony?
Yeah, I'm here, buddy. I think maybe I can hear you, but the video is pixelated. You there, mate? Hello? Okay. You there, champ?
Tony?
Yeah, I'm here. So
for some reason we cut out. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll clean that up. So you were saying that you weren't happy. You didn't like the Grammys. You didn't particularly like the way it rolled out. So why was that?
It wasn't diverse enough. Number two, again, I'm not trying to be a rock guy because I grew up on R&B and rap and everything like that. But I love the way the sets were made. I think, there's some great sets going on, but I always feel it needs to be more diverse. Okay. And it did not do that, and again, I did appreciate some of the artists that were out there. I thought there was some good talent out there, but I feel that, a Grammy should be, let's hit it all. Let's hit rock. I don't care how popular or unpopular it is. Let's hit the best of rock. Why wouldn't a band like the Struts be on there? Introduce people to a lot of different genres of music. And that's what, to me, it fell short. Yeah.
I know in your past you've done A&R, and you obviously know a lot about A&Ring over the years. I've got to a point now where I call A&R R, because it seems like that's all they tend to do. And look, no disrespect to some of the ones that are out there doing a good job, but I think we've lost our way with artist development, and A&R is a lost art form. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, first of all, we have to redefine what A&R. A&R today is, let's troll YouTube. If somebody can shit on a toilet and has 50 million views, let's find a way to sign that person. Back in the day, A&R was okay, I have a band I liked. I'm going to babysit them. I'm going to cultivate them, get the music where they needs to be, find the right producers, this and that, get the product. And that goal is gone for a bunch of reasons. Number one, companies are very budget conscious. They say, hey, they bought into the streaming market. Why do we need to spend 6 to 8 months on an artist developing them or whatever it takes when we get just immediate stuff? And if it doesn't happen, we're on to the next thing. It's very sad, and the problem is that, what people have to realize, thank God I don't have to work another day in my life, but streaming revenues are not going to support artists, and especially with COVID, artists have stopped touring where they make their money, merchandising, and that's very sad. Mm. And the record companies give two shits about artist development today. I'm sorry to say, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, it is. I remember one guy who was a friend back in the day, and where I really got to see, and I thought, obviously, if we want to talk about A&R, you know, you got Clive Davis, Ahmet Ertegun, Aretha Martin. I mean, that's, you know, they're your OGs and your lords, you know. But there's a guy called Johnny Mervos who I remember in New York. He was vice president.
I know Mervos. In fact, I did projects with Johnny. I love him.
Yeah, Johnny. And again, Johnny was a guy. I was obviously younger than him, but I had aspirations of wanting to go. And Johnny took me under his wing. And what I saw in Johnny was a guy that, as you know, incredible knowledge of music, knows the studio game, knows which end of a microphone points where. On his game, you know, he was always out seeing bands, seeing artists. Right. That guy was so dedicated. He to me was like, I really looked up to him, you know.
Yeah, are you in touch with Johnny?
No, it's been many years, and I would love to touch base with him. I hope he does remember me because it was a long ass time ago, Steve. So I was just a mere pup back then, but he treated me with so much kindness. And he was just so forthcoming with information and knowledge. He was beautiful man. What's he up to these days?
Huh?
What is Johnny up to these days? How is he?
I haven't talked to Johnny in probably about 20 years at least. I mean, same with like A&R guys like Steve Rabowski, which I absolutely loved. I mean, Steve gave me the Talk It's My Life record to do, and that opened up the doors to David Bowie. And he also gave me Soundgarden's first record to work on, which was an interesting story because I worked on a lot of rock albums in the 80s from Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Dawkins, Cinderella, Tesla, and all that. And we've had huge success. And then when the 90s came, grunge came in, you know, people will look at a guy like Steve Thompson and say, well, he's an 80s guy. What the hell does he know about anything? So I worked on the first Soundgarden album. And, you know, again, I'm a chameleon, okay? I'm all about making music of today and tomorrow. I don't look back what I've done in my previous life. That is irrelevant. And, you know, it's the same with A&R. You have to understand what the kids in the market like. And the day I'm not able to judge what they like, I'm out of here, okay? Because that to me is irrelevant. But, you know, Bees and me, I think it's important today because, you know, for a lot of bands and artists, they don't have the backing record company. So basically, you have to do it yourself. You know, I always tell artists, that, you know what? You have to build up your social media profile. I know it's hard, but that's how you're going to get noticed. Build up your social media. That's where A&R is today.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The other A&R guy who I love is John Kolodner, and I used to love the fact that on the Aerosmith records he would get the
John. Oh my God.
Would love the credit as a credit. John Kolodner. I thought,
yeah.
I've never ever seen anyone that ever before, and I thought that's amazing, absolutely amazing. Yeah,
I remember John taking me to the Palm in L.A. And it was the most hysterical lunch I've ever had in my life, where he'd walk in, waving to everybody, this and that. I mean, God bless John. You know, I did a lot of work for Geffen, as you know, and I'll give you a quick story about David Geffen. David Geffen, when we went platinum on Guns N' Roses, he got me in his office. Says, Steve, you know what I do with my people? I let them do what they do, okay? Because I believe in them. And he pointed to like Gary Gersh. Says, see this guy, Gary Gersh? He hasn't done anything for like in 2 years, but I really trust him and believe in him. Meanwhile, after that meeting, a year later, Gary signs Nirvana. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I loved about that. You know, with Clive Davis, you mentioned before. Clive is one of my mentors in music. He taught me the value of a great song. And regardless what anybody says about Clive, this guy knew what a pop record was. They did promotion like nobody's business. And what I loved about Clive is he A&R'd all his artists. You know, I remember when I worked with Whitney, Aretha, and he would get the right songwriters together for the right artists. And nobody did it like Clive. Will we ever get back to that again? I doubt it.
Yeah.
Because I just feel that people in the music industry don't have the basic music knowledge. You know, it's all about computer-generated crap.
Hey, just while you mentioned Clive, Would you want to relay the story? Because I've heard you talk about this on a podcast, and I relate it on a different podcast. But I would love you to retell the story, if you wouldn't mind. The first time that you met Aretha Franklin at the Grammys.
Oh God. I worked on Who's Zooming Who, Another Night, her and George Michael, I Knew You Were Waiting. We worked on all these songs, but I did it in New York because Aretha didn't really like to fly. So I would do a lot of the post-production and mixing in New York. And finally got to meet Aretha at a Grammy party. And Aretha has got her white mink stole on. Clive has got her, she's got her arm on Clive. And Clive first introduces me to Aretha. The look I got from Aretha was, I can't believe he's white. Look. And, I mean, Aretha to me is a goddess, okay? And to be able to work with somebody of that talent, just pinched me. But I loved working on her music. I understood her music. Narada Michael Walden did a lot of productions on the songs as well.
Oh,
He's
man.
very talented. I love Narada. He's
Love
a
him.
great producer and a great guy and a great friend.
And a great drummer. Boy.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I grew up. I remember that album that, they say there are certain albums that change your life. And I know that's a very dramatic statement to make, but there's one album that completely rocked my world, was his album, The Dance of Life. And the variety of stuff on that album, and the musicianship and the production, and just an incredible album. He's right up there in my book. Absolutely right up there. An absolute.
I agree.
Lord.
You take a look at influences. I mean, how many people came out of Mahavishnu Orchestra? When I brought musicians in the 80s, if I did a project, a dance project, my tendency was to hire jazz musicians like Omar Hakim, Darryl Jones, the Brecker Brothers, Tower Power horn sections, because I worked with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And what I loved about them is their sensibility of soul and groove, and we were lucky back in the day. We were able to afford to get these people in because, obviously most music today is generated by computers. I get that. I mean, I have tons of keyboards. I get all that. I write on things like that. But, the lost art is having a band put together and keeping the feel of the band and not making it perfect.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Because you lose the human element in music, which, for dance music, it's great. Because I love EDM. I've been a big EDM fan since the early 90s.
Yeah.
But I always love those lush productions. I mean, one of my favorite songs was Ordinary World by Aurora. I think it came out in the early 90s. Friggin' love that. It was awesome.
So you still do a lot of engineering. So you produce, you engineer, you mix. Do you even master your own stuff as well when you're doing productions?
No, I mean, I'm a writer, I'm a producer, I'm a arranger, a mixer. I do not master. I just think that's not what I do. And the other thing is when I mix, I'm different than most mixers. I don't rely on a lot of compression because I think compression has killed a lot of music. It's killed a lot of dynamics in music. I mean, if we want to be real here, if you're recording real instruments, you're compressing, okay? You're mixing, you're compressing. You're mastering, you're compressing. And God knows what the radio compression does to music.
Oh, totally.
It's just everybody's philosophy is let's put everything on 11, and that kills the dynamics of the song, and I don't believe in that. When I write music for feel and dynamics. So, again, I'm very careful how I compress things.
Yeah. So do you have a master engineer, or do you have master engineers that you have relationships with that you work with today that you have a good, relationship with?
Ted Jensen at Sterling. I work with Ted. I've done a lot of work from Sterling, from George Marino, who passed away years ago, which I absolutely love. Ted Jensen, Greg Calby. Right now Ted is down in Nashville. He's always been great, and
totally
he understands my craziness. The whole thing is, in mixing, it's very easy. You do mixes in the box. The problem is you overanalyze it, spend too much time. At the end of the day, you blow it. I personally rather mix on a console because you know what? I don't even need a fucking computer because I close my eyes and I could feel the instruments and the dynamics of a song. And I don't know how many times I walked in the studio where the computer wasn't working properly. I shut the damn thing off, so I'll just do it manually.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of power in being able to make decisions because that way I think you keep things fresh. And this reminds me of a quick story about, and I'm sure you probably know it, Steve, but to others in the audience, when Thriller was about to be released, what was holding back the album release was getting Billie Jean done, and there was something like a couple of hundred versions of the record, and Quincy Jones, I think, was, just saying, "Come on, guys, what are we doing here?" So I think out of frustration, he went into the studio wherever they were mixing it, and he put on. And I think after the second tape, the second mix, he heard it and said, "That's it, it's done." So in reality, they could have got away with it after two passes. You know what I mean? But because they just kept overthinking it and overdoing it.
I know where you're going. Let me give you a quick analogy of the music world of Steve Thompson. I know how to make a decision, and it's like in the movie business, okay? The movie business are idiots for the most part. They feel they need to do 5,000 takes of a scene when usually take 1, 2, or 3 is the take. But they don't know how to make that decision. I do. And, that's what I get paid for. I know when it's right. Is it perfect? No, but it's right.
Yeah.
The difference between perfect and right is important. And a lot of people are afraid to commit. I have no problem committing. I know when it's right. It's like, I'll give you a great story about Aretha Franklin. This is a funny story.
Yeah.
She was working with Luther Vandross, and we were in Media Sound. I was working in one room. Aretha was working in another. And Luther was a good friend of mine. I loved Luther. I'm so sorry to see him gone.
Sure.
But anyway, they're doing, I think, the album Jump to It or something like that. And I'll never forget the story. So she sings one of these songs, and Luther would go, "Hey, that's good, Ree. Let's do another one." And Ree goes, "I'm not doing another one. That's right. It's perfect. I'm not doing it again." And then Luther goes, "No, we need to do another one." And she goes, "I got more gold records than you ever seen." And Luther would go back and say, "That might be true, but the last gold you've seen, it was in the roof of your mouth." And I heard this story. I ran out and cracked the fuck up. It was hysterical, But
and you know
it's
what?
I
was going to say,
it's like Frank Sinatra.
Mm.
With Quincy, which I think is a god. Yeah. What I loved about Quincy, okay, you put an orchestra together, it could be 60 to 80 pieces. Okay, guys, let's go to bar 61. 1, 2, 3. It's like putting a needle on a record. I couldn't get 4 fucking rock guys together playing the same fucking key.
Yeah.
And here's Quincy getting a 60 to 80 piece orchestra play in time,
It's funny, just if we were talking about Luther before, how many people would have had the chutzpah to say something like that to someone like Aretha, though, hey?
Luther. Yeah. See, that's another thing. I learned a long time ago. The only person that probably intimidated and educated me was probably Yoko Ono, because
really,
I worked on the John Lennon album, Milk and Honey album, about a year or two after he passed away, and Yoko interviewed probably about God knows how many people, interviewed me, and I actually got the job to do it. And I made the mistake, said, "Yoko, whatever you think I'm worth, pay me." Mistake number 1. So we're doing the record, and Yoko's vision was to bring in Paul Schaefer and a lot of external musicians to enhance what John already did, because a lot of it was on demo. I spent every day saying, "Yoko, let's not do that. Let's keep the essence of what John did. I'll make it sound good." Again, my partner was Michael Barbiero, which is the most amazing engineer ever.
Yeah, we'll talk about him. We'll talk about him in a minute. Go on.
Yeah. And I said, "We'll make it sound good. Let's not do that." Because I felt there was an honesty to what John did. Let's keep it that way. So after all this hemming and hawing, she agreed to do that, and thank God she did. At the end of the day, she took credit for it, which I could care less, as long as it was done.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how we in music, or even in, you know, I'm not from movies, but in music, how it's easy to get intimidated by people. But we forget, though, that at the end of the day, these people are just people. They're just regular folks. And, you know, and I mean, look at you, man. I mean, let's say the character is who you are and reputation is what people think you are. And you're a guy that's got a big reputation, but yet I found you to be very affable, very approachable. I mean, you, as I said, you didn't know me at all, man. And I hit you up on Messenger and gave you the short pitch, and you responded straight away, and you were very forthcoming and very generous with your time. And again, I really appreciate the fact that you did that. Yeah, man, I think we forget sometimes that people of particular stature, you know, they may have a certain reputation and air about them, but at the end of the day, they're regular people, and they've got the same needs and insecurities as most of us, you know.
I've always found the people that have the biggest egos are the most insecure in what they do. Sure. And I'll give you a quick story, which was this. I was working with Mick Jagger, and I love Mick. I think he was awesome to work with. And he did a solo album, and he hired the best musicians in the world, from Jeff Beck, you name it, had the best people.
Sure.
And I remember I was mixing a song for him in the other room, and Jeff was doing guitars in the other room. And then Jeff would come to me, and he was so frustrated. He goes, Steve, you know, Mick is telling me what to play. I said, why would he tell you what to play? So I had to sit down with Mick. I said, Mick, let me ask you a question. You hire the best musicians in the world. You would think you want to put their personality on these songs. If I was you and I had a 16-bar part in a song, I said, Jeff, here's 16 bars. Put your personality on it, okay? It's going to be better than what I would ever think of. And I would sit down with Mick, and, you know, why would you hire these people if you could tell them what to play? You can get anybody to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk a bit about Mike Barbiero, because you and he were a powerhouse. Tell me about him, and how'd you guys meet, and how did that whole partnership begin?
I was doing a lot of dance music, and I went through a bunch of engineers at the time, and I met up with Mike, because I think he was with John Luongo at the time. And Michael and I clicked. I said, Michael, I'm looking for somebody who can work with me that could be a comedian, and we could do any form of music and be into it. And I felt Michael fit that role. Michael's a musician, very musically cultured, and the most amazing engineer. He came from the same school as Bob Clearmountain, Michael Brower, Harvey Goldberg. I mean, I can list the name along the musicals.
Al Schmidt, these kind of guys. Yeah. Just a great lineage. Yeah. And
we did a lot of work together, and then at some point I said, Michael, I'm going to make you a 50-50 partner, because I felt I want to keep the relationship going. The only way to keep a relationship going is cut it down the middle, because money kills everything. And Michael taught me so much about engineering, because when I worked with Michael the first time, I was green. I'll be the first to admit it, but I watched what he did, and I wanted to learn, because I'm a hands-on guy. I never wanted to be a guy that would sit in the background and say, okay, Michael did this, and this. I'd rather do it myself, okay? But I have to learn about that. And Michael was a great teacher, a great partner. We did amazing records together. I love him to death. I mean, he was such a great teacher, and I can't say anything more about him. Just an amazing guy.
Who, apart from Clive Davis, I know you wrote up at probably maybe top of your list as far as your mentors go, but who are the other people that were influential in your life growing through music and through life that you feel really, really shaped you or provided you with pivotal, you know, because sometimes in our life we have the pivotal moment where someone says one thing to you and it just changes everything and it sets you on another course. So have there been moments like that in your life, or people that, you know, you look back on and think that, wow, the influence of this person or
there's a lot of influence in my life. I can go back to, as a kid in the 60s, I was influenced by Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Elbridge Cleaver, hung out with the Black Panthers, and I was very involved in that movement at the time because I thought racial injustice was the most stupidest thing I've ever heard, because thank God I was brought up in a family. My dad was 100% Norwegian. My mom was 100% Italian. And what I loved about them is we don't care who you bring it home. We don't care what color, race, or religion you are. And just judge them on the quality of their content, the quality of the character.
Yeah.
And so I was very influenced by that. And it was kind of interesting. In 71, I was hanging out with the Black Panthers, and they turned me on to Miles Davis, Bitches Brewing on the Corner. And that kind of changed my life. I told you about the Bowie influence. I loved hanging out with Richard from the Psychedelic Furs. I thought he was the next incarnation of Bowie. Musical David Geffen influenced me because I loved his philosophy on his company. Because I really think it's very important to let people be creative, because right now, unfortunately, the music business, the creative people are not exactly being hired to what they need to do.
Yeah.
And I find that to be shameful. Obviously, Clive, is a huge mentor because he taught me the value of a great pop song. And, you have great writers like Diane Warren. I remember working with Joe Cocker. She wrote a couple songs. I produced them. And Narada Michael Walden, amazing producer, amazing talent. I mean, oh, God. Mick Jagger, I got to be honest with you, absolutely love the man, because he knew what he wanted, and he knows what's going on. I love working with artists like that. And when I work with Tesla,
he's incredible.
Something great. Here's a band that should not have been great in the 80s for the fact that they didn't look the part, because they weren't that typical hair band look, but they had content.
Yeah.
The musicality of that band was amazing.
Just getting back to Jagger. One of the things that strikes me about him is that he's also, apart from a great musician and an artist, he's an incredibly shrewd businessman too, from what I've read.
Oh, absolutely.
Just incredible business acumen. Just amazing.
Absolutely. Same with Yoko. Yoko, John was terrible in business. I think John gave her $1 or $2 million, and she parlayed that into their vast empire. I think Yoko's parents actually owned the Bank of Tokyo. I'm not sure about that, but I think that's what I heard. And Mick is very smart. That's what I work with Mick. I work with Keith. Keith is the complete antithesis of Mick. Keith is, give me a guitar, plug me in, and let's go. I love that. It was a great yin yang.
It's extraordinary. You've been around so much celebrity. Can you relate to the kind of lifestyle these people live? The bubble that, how insular that these people are from the rest of the world. I can't imagine living that way. You've been around so much of it. What's your take on celebrity and living the life of the mega celebrity,
All right, I'll give you a great example. I'm at a restaurant with Mick Jagger. We're having dinner, and we have about 8 bodyguards, washing the table. I said, Mick, you know what the difference between me and you are? I said, a lot of people know my name, but everybody knows your face and name. And I'm sorry, I can never live like this. And again, that's why I told you, I had to get away from LA and New York. I love what I do. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud and things like that. I can't live that lifestyle. That lifestyle is made for certain people. Mick can handle it. Whitney couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
God bless her. There's certain people that just can't handle that lifestyle because it's like a sports person. You are coddled. You have hangers on. You have people saying you're the best thing since sliced bread. After a while, you get used to it. Okay. Yeah. And there's nobody there to say, hey, Mick, shut the fuck up. And this is where you are.
Yeah.
I had a great example. Raquel Welch is a good friend of mine. And I had Raquel stay at our house in Long Island. We would go out together. In the house, she's like the most normal person in the world. When she's out of the house, she puts on this diva thing. We're in the Hamptons in Long Island. and we're going to these clothes stores, and she's acting like the ultimate diva. And I basically smacked her down a couple of steps. Says, really? This is how you're going to treat people?
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, I understand how people could be snowed. And, you know, the problem is with a lot of famous people, they get away with a lot because they're the money train for a lot of people that work with them.
Yeah.
I get that. But see, thank God in what I do, you know, people might know my name around the world, but they don't know my face. And I'm fine with that. I don't need the celebrity. If I did, I'd be in a band.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Now let's just move into something else. There's something else that you love to do, which I have. I don't know if I'm as passionate as you, but I certainly enjoy doing it, and that's cooking. Let's talk about cooking, man, and where. I mean, I guess having an Italian mum, I guess that's straight away you've got some pretty good roots right there. But so was it as a youngster you got into cooking, or was it something that happened a little bit later in terms of really sort of wanting to explore it?
Well, it's interesting, you know, in my life, I've been afforded to go to the top 5-star restaurants around the world. So I was kind of jaded. Obviously, my mom, 100% Italian. My great aunt who lived with us her name was Filippa Lagna. Typical Italian woman, 400 pounds, mustache, wingtip shoes, and the best cook in the world.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up as a kid, my parents would take us to Brooklyn because my great uncle and aunt owned a brownstone in Brooklyn. They'd leave us over. And my great uncle would take me to where he shopped every day. And I was probably, 8 or 9 years old. And he would go to the bakery to get the fresh bread, go to the fish market, go to the meat market. He went to all these specialty stores, had to pick out his food. So I kind of got that. And when I got married to Joanne, I didn't have time to be a cook, but I'm always interested in. My favorite restaurant in New York was Rayo's, which is a very famous Italian restaurant. And if you don't know what Rayo's is, the owner, Frank Pellegrino, was in the movie Goodfellas, and he was also in the TV series Sopranos. Mm-hmm. To make a long story short, Rayo's is a restaurant you can't get in unless people would buy into tables every other week, and that's how you got in. And I was lucky because I did a lot of work at Hit Factory, and Troy Germano and Eddie Germano had a table every Tuesday. So Troy would take me there, and I got to know Frank Pellegrino. And we developed a good relationship. And I remember, you know, when you walked in there, Frank would say, this is what you're going to have tonight. It's not what you want. Yeah. This is what you get. And I love walking into a restaurant with this is what you're going to get. Yeah. So he actually made me a dish that my mom used to make that I would stay away from. So I'll never forget this day. I said, can I just walk into the kitchen and see who's cooking this? And at the time, I think there was an older Italian woman cooking that. I said, Frank, you know, all honesty, I stayed away from this dish because it's very close. And this is the closest to my mom's cooking I've ever had. And we did the Italian kiss on each side. That was a sign of respect. Mm. So I started doing a lot of cooking at home. And that's why I used to be skinny. Now I got to lose some weight because I've actually became quite good. In fact, today I'm doing chicken with fettuccine, a portobello mushroom sauce, and asparagus. Nice. Once I get off the phone with you. And I had some leftover chicken. So I wound up making my chicken soup that what I wind up doing is I bottle it and freeze it. You know, I got to make a big thing. Yeah. Because I'm a big soup person. I make, you know, a lot of soups. I make pasta dishes. One of my favorites is when I make a shrimp and lobster vodka sauce. Mm. Or I could do the traditional meat sauce, and I'm into healthy salads as well. Yeah. So if I was coming over to your place for dinner, yeah, no problem. What would you make for me? Do you like fish or meat? I come from the tradition of I'll have what you're presenting. I could do either. I mean, like I said, I could do anything. I'd have. But you know, what would you do? Go make it in the same way you make decisions when you do a mix. Make a decision on your cooking. So I want the Steve Thompson experience. So what am I? Yes, I am. What am I having? Yes, I am. Okay, hang on.
It's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, we froze out again. I have no idea why.
That's okay. We'll come back in.
Like I said, just tell me what you're in the mood for, and I can put it together.
Well, awesome. Well, I like anything. I'm always interested in what you got to cook. But if I do get to a stateside, I'll look you up.
Yeah,
I will look you up.
Oh, no problem.
Because I think you
Always
and I
have an open house.
You and I could talk about shit for hours. Sport. We haven't even touched on sport yet. we haven't even touched on.
Interesting. What's interesting about sports in the 80s? Everybody's doing drugs. I was spending my money on baseball cars and memorabilia.
Yeah. So you probably got a Mickey Mantle somewhere, right?
Oh, tons of them.
Yeah.
My memorabilia collection is probably worth about $10 million.
Damn.
I went nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, I went nuts. I mean, I have every baseball card set made from 1952 to the present. Like I said, Joanne, when I leave, this is your retirement.
well, you know what? This leads into.
I enjoy it. We all need outlets. I love sports as an outlet. I love cooking as an outlet. I love golfing because I'll give you an interesting golf story. When I was growing up as a kid, my dad tried to take me golfing. I said, Dad, not interested because I was playing a lot of physical sports. I said, when my body parts aren't performing properly, maybe I'll take golf. So I'm working with Alice Cooper in the 80s, and he gave me the golf bug because we could work till 4 or 5 in the morning in the studio, and he would take my ass out on the golf course every morning. So I developed that disease called golf phobia.
You're talking before about outlets, and this leads me to the question I want to ask you, which is unlike a lot of people, and I put myself in this category because I was hooked on cocaine for 25 years, and I've given it up a long time ago. I've turned my life. I used to be 400 pounds in your language, and I managed to get rid of my weight and get my shit together and whatnot. And a lot of musicians and artists obviously went down the path and drugs destroyed them. And obviously you were in and around that, but you managed to stay away. You've been married to a woman who's obviously you adore. So many people with relationships that. So what is it? What is it about? I don't know if it's the secret, but what is it about you that you've been able to maintain a healthy relationship with your wife and stay out of the drugs and out of the bullshit, and to use your money well and invest well and be in the position you want today? Because you're a rarity in that respect. There's so many fucking casualties in the music
There
world.
is. Well, there's a bunch of things, As a kid, growing up in the 60s, somebody gave me acid for the first time. I did it and freaked the fucking shit out of me.
Right.
I had a purple Volkswagen called Purple Haze.
Yeah.
My friend had to babysit me for 8 hours to get off this shit. And that was probably the best life lesson ever because I'm a control freak. I cannot do anything I'm not in control over.
Gotcha.
So I worked, Clive Davis forced me to work with the Grateful Dead. I may respect them, not my music, okay? Not my music. And so I'm in the studio, and this is a funny story. Michael and myself are in the studio putting up the vocals, and Jerry Garcia walks in first, and Michael goes to Jerry, says, what do you think your vocals sound? And Jerry goes, that's not me, that's Bob. So Michael would say, well, I guess you can see what kind of big deadheads we are. And after that comment, they loved us because they've never been around people that could give a fuck about the Grateful Dead. And we had a great relationship working on the song. So there was a show called Hugh Hefner's Playboy After Dark in the late 60s. Playboy After Dark, it's Hugh Hefner on Playboy magazine.
Yeah.
And the Grateful Dead performed that night. And what they wound up doing is spiking the punch bowl with LSD. So everybody was tripping. I said, Jerry, if you ever pulled that shit on me, I'd kick your motherfucking ass. Yeah. So it's a lifeline we all done blow. But the thing is, I'm a hyper person to begin with. What is it going to do to me? My thing is I'll have an espresso in the morning with a little Sambuca. My only thing is I like red wine. That's it. Pot, maybe, I smoke a little weed, but not really that much. And, again, I've been through so many sessions where I had to be a drug counselor, and that's sad.
Yeah.
There's certain artists that do better on drugs, and that's sad. That is really sad. I'm not going to name names.
Yeah.
I had one artist in the studio. Well, I'll give you a Keith Richards. Well, no, I won't do that. There's one artist in the studio that wanted to do cocaine before he did his vocals. And I said, no, you're not doing that. Yeah. And I refused it. And the manager called me and says, he needs to do that. I said, no, he's not. So with all the hemming and haw, I said to the person, do me a favor. Try the vocals without the coke. Let's just get one good one. And he wound up grudgingly doing it. And it was a great vocal. After that, he got it and didn't do coke again.
Wow.
You know, it's very easy in the business to be swayed by drugs, this and that. And, you know, most artists are very insecure. I understand that. I really do. But, you know, I try to get people to perform naturally because music is natural. You know, that's just me.
Yeah. So what about marriage? What about relationships and marriage? What are the keys that make it work for you, or what's made it work for you and your wife?
We've been together since 1982. We were the total opposite. I was a slut. I'll be the first to admit it. I mean, it wouldn't be strange to have 9 different women in one day. I'll admit that. And I've been hit on by a lot of Hollywood actresses and well-known people. I'm not going to mention the list.
No, it's okay.
And I remember hanging out with Axl Rose, and we would go to Playboy Mansion, we would go to porno parties, and you could have everything you want. And I didn't do it. And I says, you know what? They kind of told me something. I says, you know, if you can find the perfect person, it's not there, but the person that you could be with for the rest of your life. I found her with Joanne. I mean, what I love about her, she's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Her personality is even better. I mean, you've seen pictures of her on my Facebook page, right?
Yeah. She's beautiful.
Are you there?
Yeah, right here. I'm here, Steve.
Tony?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm right here.
I don't know when we cut out. How far do we cut out?
No, we just established that I'd seen pictures of your wife on social media and that she's gorgeous.
But her personality is better than her. Her spirituality is second to none. And to find your soulmate is very hard. It's not an easy thing to do. But when you find that, cherish it. And that to me is important. We always think the grass is green on the other side. It's not. You're going to have ups and downs in a relationship. Deal with it. Live with it.
Yeah.
It's life. You know, it's important that, you know, what was the song I did with Cinderella? What was the big ballad? When It's Gone. What? Oh God! Why am I trying?
I can't tell you because I got to be honest. I wasn't into Cinderella that much. So they didn't really do it big. They weren't that big in Australia. I mean, I've heard of them, but I can't say I'm familiar with it.
Well, it was a great ballad, and again, they are great musicians. I'm not talking about the hair metal days.
Yeah. But what they're alluding to? What were they alluding to in the song? What was the message in the song?
Never know what you got till it's gone.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's a cliche, but it's so freaking true.
Yeah.
And you know, you got to cherish it. You got to work on a relationship. It's never easy, but hey, life isn't easy. You know, just understand what you have, and you know, we can always say the negatives, but to me, the positive always outweighs the negatives.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think for me, I consider myself a late bloomer in life. I just learned the hard way, Steve, but at least I'm glad I'm here and I've arrived and got a few lessons under my belt. But I'm into my second marriage and hopefully final. I've been with my wife, Connie, now for nearly 10 years. I've been married for 4. But I found that again, it's a cliche of what Whitney said, the greatest love of all is the one that you have with yourself. I think once you get comfortable within your own skin, and I learned to get good with me and accept me for all of me, good, bad, and everything, then I was able to cultivate relationships better, not just in my personal life, but in business, in social, in every other way. So I've just learned to enjoy life so much more. You know, once I've been good with, I can sit in the room by myself and be comfortable with myself and my thoughts.
That's important.
Yeah.
My brother's a doctor. He's been married 3 times, and he's supposed to be the stable one in my family, and it's the complete opposite.
All right, Steve. Listen, we're going to have to wind up here, unfortunately. Not through our choice, but we got to get you back on the podcast at some point later in the year. But before
I just want to bring out that I'm always looking at new artists. I am not unattainable. You can, post my website if anybody
wants to send you something to listen to and check out.
Huh?
They can send you some stuff for you to check out and
yeah.
Yep.
And again, they have to have budgets because I'm at a point in my life I don't do shit for free.
No, fair call. All right. Just one last bit of advice for those kids who are aspiring to become engineers or producers or even artists. So what's a couple of things that you'd share with them that they could take away with to consider in terms of becoming successful, in music and life?
Well, like I said, first of all, a great song is a great song. I don't care what genre of music it is, make it resonate. Number 2, be prepared to market it yourself, get it to a certain point where a company will be interested. That's a given. Mm-hmm. And number 3, never, ever listen to other people. Live your dream and put 1,000% into it. Wonderful. I've seen people say, well, the music industry sucks. Well, fuck you. You want to work at McDonald's or you want to make music? If you want to make music, forget about the naysayers. I'll give you a quick analogy. Do you know how many companies passed on the Beatles?
Yeah.
I mean, which I thought was really funny. The original manager, what's his name? God, why am I drawing a blank?
No, you're talking about, what's his name? Epstein. You're talking about Brian?
Yeah. Brian Epstein.
Yeah.
He actually framed every rejection letter in his office, which I thought was good.
Yeah.
They never get it right, Record companies never get it right. So that tells you something. You can't rely on what they think.
Yeah.
How many rejection letters that artists have gotten that, they can, a lot of people say, well, shit, if they don't like me, that's wrong, Follow your dream.
Yeah. Good advice. Steve Thompson, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a great chat, my friend.
My pleasure, Tony. Have a great day, okay?
Will do. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much to my sponsor, Omega MMA Jiu-Jitsu in Collingwood. Thank you so much, George Soteropoulos, UFC fighter, the real deal, who trains all of us down there. And so whether you want to come just to be fit and healthy or you do have aspirations to go in the cage, make sure you go down and check out Omega MMA. All right, I'm out of here. Thanks very much to Steve Thompson again. It was a great, really enjoyed that podcast. So much fun. I'm out of here. Please be nice to each other. But more importantly, be nice to yourselves. I love you, crazy kids. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you in the next one.